asked to talk to you. I was asked to talk to you about two aspects. One is copyright, and another is plagiarism. Both have a lot of relevance as far as students are concerned. And you are in your final year in your schooling, and next year you will be moving on to your colleges and universities for higher education, where you will be facing with umpteen occasions where you will have to put these ideas into practice. Um, what is copyright? Copyright, to put it very simply, is a legal right on the intellectual property content of any type of material. It can be a literary work, it can be an academic work, it can be a poem, a painting, a drawing, a piece of music that is being composed. It can be anything. In scientific community, they call it patent, while usually in other areas of artistic work and academia, it's called copyright. This was put in place as a legal protection for the owner of that particular piece of work. As I said, it can be a document, it can be a book, it can be a poem, it can be any type of original creation. And the person who holds the copyright has the final right on copying of that work, or what we call as either a commercial multiplication of that work, or even a non-commercial multiplication also, or duplication also. This is just a protection on the copying purpose. That's all. Having said that, there is a fair use clause also into it, that for academia, for journalistic purposes, for your studies, for writing commentary about it, for writing book reviews, you can use a fair portion of such materials also, but with proper attribution to it. That is the most important part. In India, by law, copyright applies up to 60 years after the death of the author or the person who is holding the copyright. That is the time up to which it will apply, which means nobody will be able to copy or replicate or make additional copies of it or sell it in whichever format that is available, in the same format or in a different. If it is a book, you are not supposed to scan it and put it as a PDF and upload it on internet and share with each other on your WhatsApp or any other media. Or if it is a movie, you are not allowed to copy it using a camera and make it as a short video and upload it on Telegram and share it with your friends. These are occasions which you see which are being violated on a day-to-day basis. So now you will ask me what will happen, or what exactly is the implication of a violation of copyright? Fine, it's a good question. Now think about it from the point of view of the owner. Let us assume all of you are, I could see, except the principal sir and the librarian madam and myself, there are 61 people in this room now. Let us assume all of you are authors, all of you have written a book, all 61 of you, all of you are good authors, great authors, and all of you have published a book which is a popular one, which is a bestseller. Now think of a situation where instead of a normal reader buying a copy of your book from a bookstore, they are relying on buying, or rather borrowing, a copy of your book from your library and taking photocopy of it from cover to cover. What will happen? Think of it from your author's point of view. What will happen? You lose royalty to that one copy which is not sold there. When a book's cover to cover copy is being made, one copy is less sold at that point of time, isn't it? That is what we explain about as a violation of copyright. So same thing applies to all other pieces of work. So wherever a person has a right to a particular piece of original content, remember that you are not supposed to violate it, because tomorrow the same thing will apply to you also as an owner of copyright. This is only the protection mechanism that is being awarded to you by law by any sovereign government. Now, we are in a highly technologicized era, connected all the time, networked all the time. It's very easy to actually copy and publicize and share and all those things, right? It's very easy now these days. That is why copyright becomes highly relevant these days also. That is where now the copyright systems have gone one step ahead to say that now authors can actually decide whether you want your copyright to be exercised as a closed copyright or what we call these days as an open access right. Open access came into being some 15 years back, to be exact in 2005. And what happens is when we publish a book, these days publish a book or publish or write or create a poem, any original content, we have as the owner of that piece of work, we have the right to decide whether you want it to make it a closed copyright and protect it from anybody doing anything to it, or we can publish it as what we call as an open access license. Open access license in the sense you are giving actually freedom to everybody to make copies of it, right? It might sound actually confusing to you, isn't it? Yes, what the idea here is that we want the knowledge to be freely available to everybody, because it's an internet connected world where, as an author, think about it that what do you actually want? You want to write a book or you want to write a short poem and you want to publish it. Now, what exactly you want to do about it? You want to protect it from people reading it, or do you prefer that the more number of people share it and read it? The second one would be better, right? Because you will get, as you said, it will get more visibility. So the idea here is that you willingly share that right, saying that this is available in open access license. Everybody is free to share it as they like, subject to the original copyright on the intellectual part being held in your name, which means they can share it, but they should say that this is by so and so person. That's it. So remember these things. These are small things. What we call this as referencing in terms of publishing. Later on, when we come to the next topic of plagiarism, I will explain that in detail. How do you actually attribute it to that original author? When you copy something and use it in your work, you give a proper citation and referencing about that original author. That's it. Now, these aspects of copyright is something which you have to remember. As a user of material as well as an author on your own. See, it has two sides. So remember, be aware of your rights as an author also. Your intellectual property, you write something, you publish something. Remember always that as an author, as a holder of that intellectual property, you have your own right. The same law will apply to you. You will also get the same protection. However, you should not infringe upon others' right the same way as you expect that no one else should infringe on your right. Right? So this is a short explanation about copyright. Now we will move on to plagiarism. Uh, Again, that is also a very contended topic these days, which has come into focus in the last 10 years. Again, we are in a technological era that it is quite easy for people to take out others' ideas and words and use it as their own. To explain simply in simple terms, what is plagiarism is that you take other people's ideas, you take other people's words, and pass it off as your own in your publication. When you write a book or when you write something, when you publish a journal article, you take somebody else's ideas, somebody else's words in bulk and just copy and paste. Isn't it? Some of you have done it. Some of all of us have done it by mistake sometimes, not deliberately always. So it's very useful that in the years to come you should be aware of it. What are the pitfalls that can happen and how can you actually prevent yourself from getting plagiarized? First aspect is ideally don't copy large portion of materials, large portion of paragraphs, words from somebody else's work. Your teacher will give you an assignment when you reach college. You will be asked to write something for the college magazine. So what's the first thing that all of you do? You open the Google Scholar, you type the topic, some material will come up. What you will do is you just read the first paragraph, copy and paste it into your write. Isn't it? That is something which you are not supposed to do. Don't copy large portion of material, right? Second is that in case you have to copy, let us say you are defining something. When you are saying that um, theory of relativity as explained by, then of course you have to say what is theory of relativity, isn't it? So in that case, if you are defining something, remember to put it in quotation marks. So what happens is when a reader reads, they will see that this has a separate marking, which actually signifies that this material, this portion has been taken from some other source, right? And whatever you have taken from other source, when you give it in quotation marks, remember at the end of it, where you close the quotation marks, give in brackets the name of that author and the year of that publication. We call that citation. In academia, this is called citation. You are citing the author and the year of publication to signify from where you have actually taken that quotation. And like that, you can cite any number of items that you are using for that particular publication. And at the end of it, you should give a very detailed description about all those materials that you have cited about. Let us say you have 10 quotations and you have given 10 citations. At the end of your writing, you should give what we call as a list of references, where in detail you will give the name of the author, the title of that publication, the year of publication, the publisher's name, the publisher's place. There is this particular piece is called reference, and there is a specific style in which it should be cited also. We will not go into detail about it at this point of time. You will be required to do this when you reach your college and universities, and at that time the librarians there and your teachers will help you about it. Just remember that this is what we call as a citation style. There is a specific style in which it should be written. And next is ideally avoid incorrect information about citing. When you give citations and references, remember it should be very clear and very accurate. Don't give incorrect information, which will in turn mislead the reader. The ultimate idea here is that when somebody reads your publication, they should be able to clearly understand that this particular portion is not yours. It's not your original portion. but a portion which you have taken from a source outside. Which means, by law, remember that it should not fall under copying. So it will never fall under copying when you give proper citation, and the reader will be able to understand that from which source it has been taken. Right? And another method which we see is people usually take bulk portion from some other material, paste it into their work, and change the words. Just right click. Right, in Windows you have umpteen number of options. Actually, just right click, it will say synonyms, you change that word. Right, so you take 100 words from an article from Wikipedia, every third word you right click, go to synonyms and change it to some other word. Right, that is also being practiced, which also should be avoided. Whatever you write, you should write in your own word. You read, you understand, and then write it in your own words, which is what we call as paraphrasing. But deliberate copying and changing words here and there should be not practiced. And finally, there is something called self-plagiarism also, which also you should be aware of. Let us assume you have published your book or you have published your journal article, and when you are writing your next publication, you are not supposed to use the previous publication, a large portion from previous publication, and make some changes here and there and pass it off as a new publication. That is called self-plagiarism. The idea is that any piece of work should be original, should be new. So the same thing which we spoke about, the points that we spoke about in the beginning, applies to your own publication also, your own earlier publication also. So self-plagiarism also should be avoided. In universities and colleges, there are methods to trace out such cheating and such plagiarism happening. There are softwares which are used by librarians to check your assignments, to check your theses, your dissertations, etc., to find out whether you are actually deliberately trying to copy from other material. And by law established, UGC has given a stipulation that not more than 10% of your publication should have external material. So that is actually law, which you need not actually worry about it too much if you are remembering how to avoid plagiarism. By what you should do, always do a thorough literature search. What is literature search? I'm sure your librarian Darshana madam should have taught you about. When you want to write, when your teachers give you an assignment to write about a topic, how should you search for materials? How should you trace out materials? So that literature search should be very thorough. Second, conduct a very serious, thorough reading of those materials. In-depth reading of those materials. Just superficial reading of the first paragraph and the last paragraph should not do. You are supposed to read from end to end very seriously, very thoroughly, and make notes wherever required. And understand what you have read, imbibe those ideas, and when you write it in your own words, in your own language, in your own style of writing. That is what we always expect from a serious researcher, a serious student, a serious academic. And when you write in your original style, wherever you want to attribute an idea to someone else, you can always attribute that idea. There is nothing wrong in it. You can write it in your own words and put the citation mark there itself. Nothing wrong in it also. So wherever you want to quote, put quotation marks. Remember, wherever you are not, wherever quotations are not required, just attribution is sufficient. Remember to put attributions, and always remember to give citation and references. So if you practice these 5 steps very seriously, very diligently, Plagiarism will never happen. You will be using umpteen number of materials. Your teachers, your librarian will show you how to do literature search thoroughly. You will be getting umpteen number of materials for writing your project. Journal articles, books, book chapters, website, blogs, newspaper articles, magazine articles, brochures, quite a lot of materials you will be getting. Whatever you get about the topic, remember to read it very seriously. Think whether you have to use it for your writing. If you want to use it for your writing, read it very seriously and understand the idea in that particular publication. Then write it in your own words and remember to give the proper citation and reference. If you have to give quotation, if you want to use some words from that publication, remember to use it within quotation mark, and again remember to give proper citation and reference. If you practice this, automatically you can avoid plagiarism. So these are two topics. It's a short talk which I was asked to do. I thought I will not make it very elaborate. This is just an introduction. Of course, when you go to your higher studies, your librarians and your teachers will give you more information about all these topics. So remember, as students, as diligent students, we always expect that you will maintain your integrity and handle your academic with very seriousness and within the limits of ethics. All the best to all of you.
Any questions, anybody? Any doubts?
Sir,
Yes.
so when we are like, if we are writing a blog or something and we want to add an image, so
Yes.
we usually go to Google
Yes.
for image, and also will that be considered plagiarism?
Definitely. See, violation of copyright applies to all sort of creative works. So when you use an image from an external source, always go to that source and see whether they have put a copyright restriction there. When you are searching for an image in Google, you have an option for, just like I said, open access. Open access is available in images also. There are free images which are beyond copyright. The photographers have given it for free for using. You can use those images also. If you are taking images from a copyright protected page, that can lead to complications later on, which you should try to avoid.
Okay, sir. So if we are using a copyright, like a protected image, is there something that we can write over there so that they don't get offended or something?
Yes. So ideally, whatever you use, remember to give the copyright as attribution, to say that below the image, you say this is the source from which you have taken the image. Basically, if it is a small image and all, nothing will happen. Ideally, use a free image wherever possible, which is beyond copyright. But there also, you should give the source.
Okay.
And there are some sources which has fair use rights also. Sriram,
Yes.
that about also you can just mention.
Yes, fair use. Yes, as I said, see, there are authors, there are people who exercise their copyright in a strict sense, in a commercial value. They will never allow it to be copied. It's their own decision, right? We cannot say anything about it. But we have currently a second stream of thought also going across the world, that information, knowledge, data, every creativity in this world is for sharing, right? Think about all this data, knowledge, everything that your teachers are teaching, that your librarian is keeping in the library. All this was created by someone else, right? In the era that was gone by, right? And none of them exercise their copyright to say that it should not be copied. So we all feel that there should be a fair use clause, and people are now publishing in that sense to a great extent. There lot of material are available which are actually free to use, where they give you the permission to use it as freely as possible and as much as you want. The idea behind it is that the more it is used, the more it becomes popular, and the more it becomes popular, again, the more it will be used, right? And knowledge is available for everybody to use and share. There are umpteen number of such databases, open access resources are there, open access journals, open access publications, uh, open access databases are there, which you can actually start using. When you write also, remember you will be required to write journal articles. You can always try to choose an open access publication so that though it will be shared by maximum number of people.
Thank you.
Sriram sir, good morning.
Yes, sir. Good morning.
Is there any what should be done to take permission from those people, those who have the copyright?
That again depends on different types of publications. Let us say you are using someone else's work, and if you want to copy a large portion and use it in your publication, ideally you should avoid it. If it may be possible that for your piece of research it may be required, these days the law is that you can actually write to that author and explain the need for it, and they will definitely give you permission, which you can use it and state it in your publication in the beginning that this person, let us say a particular portion in this is substantially used from another work with permission from that author. That if you could state it, that is fine. That is one aspect. Second is that usage of materials for your teaching purposes. Let us say you want to make multiple copies of resources. Let us say you are creating teaching materials, the student reading material. Several institutions have this system that at the beginning of the year they prepare a sort of a reading material for their students by taking bits and pieces. Let us say one poem from one book, one story from another book, etc., etc. Let us say some 12 or 20 items would be there, which you will be actually picking and choosing from different materials and creating a new publication. It may be copied and prepared as a photocopy file or something and distributed internally only within your campus also, but still it becomes a copyright violation. So in that case also, you should write to the author or the concerned publisher and explain to them that this will be duplicated for this many number. And there are, in certain cases, some publishers would ask some money for that. Most of them will not ask. So in most cases they will agree to it also. Ultimately it is that it's for the good of the society. So only thing is, whatever we do, ideally we should do it in a transparent manner rather than getting caught later on. When this goes beyond a certain limit, and when there are cases where it has gone to court, I believe some of you have heard of the Delhi University case also, where the photocopy shop inside the Delhi University used to make such student files in large numbers and distribute it to students also. It went to court, but unfortunately for publishers and fortunately for the students as well as the university, the court ruled in favor of them that copyright will not apply for education purposes and students can actually copy. It was interpreted that it was not actually the shop which was actually trying to create a file, but students used to go there and ask every time. So let us say one student will come and ask for the set, then they will have to go and pick up the whole thing and then bring it to the library, out of the library, and take copy and make it a file and give it to the student. Tomorrow another student will come. Third day another 2 students used to come. So the pattern was that what the shop owner saw, that it is easier for him to create 20 files in the beginning itself and keep it there, so that somebody will step in and say, I am studying in this class, I want this. So immediately you will be given that set of photocopy. So it was interpreted in that way. So that apart, but ideally if you are using, ideally you can also actually talk to the copyright owners and take copyright permissions from them.
Sir, one more thing is, without taking permission from the persons with copyright, if attribution or citation is given, then that can be saving us from plagiarism.
No, sir. When you give citation and referencing, there is no plagiarism involved. There is no plagiarism at all there actually, because see, for a reader, what does a reader understand? They read that portion, immediately there is a citation, and at the end there is a referencing also, which is very clear to say that the author claims that this idea is from X, Y, or Z, and it is not my idea. So plagiarism part is covered there. There is no issue of plagiarism. Copyright violation will come where you use a very substantial portion. Let us say you are writing a book and some 80% of that is from another book. Then why should we really read your book? We could as well go and read the other book itself, right? But it may be possible that you are writing a commentary about the other book. That is possible, right? In history, in humanities, such studies are possible, where let us say you take two publications. Let us say you are comparing I will give you an example. You are comparing the philosophy of Adi Shankara with the philosophy of Jaspers, or you are comparing the philosophy of another philosopher from India with another philosopher from Europe. So you will have to pick up two publications and do a thorough commentary comparison between both of them, which means a substantial portion of your book will be from these two books. Invariably that will happen. This example is about something that was published some 100, 500 or 1000 years back, so nobody will claim copyright about it. But let us say you are actually copying something which is just published some 50 years back, or rather say 25 years back, or even let us say 10 years back. Then this will apply. Let us say you are comparing the latest economic theory of Amartya Sen with that of an economist from Europe. That is also possible. Both of them are contemporaries, both of them are alive now, and copyright will apply. So in such cases, it is ideal that you write to both of them, explain that you are working on this particular project, and then you will be using these two publications extensively. 99% they will agree. Very rarely that they will disagree.
Sir, also regarding how cautious we are to be while we are forwarding some messages in social media, especially does it come to the purview of these things? Because children or we normally, whenever we get a message in social media, WhatsApp or something, we are tempted to forward it to the next person. So how much cautious are we to become?
Yes, that directly doesn't come within the purview of copyright or plagiarism. That is usually what we call as fake information. Fake information sometimes escalates itself to plagiarism and copyright, where the original writers of that idea would claim that somebody has actually plagiarized my idea and made it a fake information. So in such case, not only this, like what students should remember, what a serious user of social media should remember is that no matter whatever message you get, no matter whatever is a temptation to forward it immediately, please count from 1 to 10. Think once again whether you have to indeed forward it at all. If you feel that you have to indeed forward it, just copy and paste it on Google and see whether it is correct or not. Again, as in 99% cases, you would see some reference about it being fake. Somebody would have pointed it out on internet that this is fake news. So you can actually avoid getting caught about it, and somebody would shame you that you are unnecessarily forwarding fake news and creating rumor mongering. So that you can actually avoid. So that is something which we can always do.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, sir.
Recently, when Ratan Tata's forward came, sir, later Tata himself was told that he has not stated such a thing about
Yes.
Indian economy and all. Recently, it just got forward. Okay, so shall we wind it up?
Yes, madam. Yes, madam. Before, madam, before we wind up,
Yes, sir.
I have to tell something.
Yes, sir.
I appreciate Madam Darshana for arranging this program, especially today being the World Book Day and Book and Copyrights Day. This is actually our objective when we were discussing this was just to make children or all stakeholders responsible readers and writers. This aspect of plagiarism and copyright will have to make us responsible writers as well as readers. So that was the idea, and I hope the purpose is served. And I thank Sir Sriram sir for dealing with so patiently, so wonderfully. It was a smooth sailing, like it was very nice to listen to you. I never felt that it was an online interaction. It was very effective, or as effective as an offline interaction. Another time, when Corona goes off, I would like you to come to the school and interact with the children to motivate them live, face to face. So this is my appeal to you, request to you. And I hope all the children would have benefited from it. So keep it in mind whenever we forward something. Before that, we'll be counting from 1 to 10 to see that whether it is really needed or not. Not only for that, for anything and everything, you can do this activity actually to save us from many things. Then congratulations to Darshana Madam for this wonderful day. Thank you. Okay, over to Darshana.
Now it's time for vote of thanks. I call upon Anakha of class 12th to present the vote of thanks. Anakha.
Respected Chief Guest, Principal Sir, teachers, and my dear friends, I'm privileged to propose the vote of thanks. A very big thanks to the Honorable Guest, Sri Ramvi, who gave such important information on the topic copyright and plagiarism. Special thanks to Principal Sir, who believes that this topic is one of the most significant things that we students as well as every one of us should know nowadays. Thanks to all teachers for coordinating such an amazing webinar. At last but not the least, thanks to all my friends who attended this webinar and gave their contribution. Thank you.
Thank you.
May I request all of you to unmute your mics for a clap, please?
Thank you.
This was thank you, Ram.
Thank you. Thank you, Sriram.